This is the deck I was playing. It's mono fire and almost identical to the list that was made by Zav, who's a very good player and well-known English player from the Yorkshire region. And it was one of the two decks that he played at Euros where he made the top six and that qualified him for Worlds. So I've only made two changes to it. He had the two-cost Ice Water Realm, which I've swapped for Fire Wind Cater, and he had a Lilty backup where you keep flipping the top card of your deck until you hit a wind card, i.e. the Zidane, and I swapped that for Elwyn. This is a very control heavy deck, so we're looking to get to five backups, and in general, most of our players will be reacting to what our opponent is presenting on field. But unlike other decks that do that, it's not necessarily the case that we'll be wanting to get to the five as soon as economically possible, because if it was, we'll be running, for example, the Culinarian backup. But with this deck, a lot of the backups actually deal damage to things, so we're looking to try to remove our opponent's forwards at the same time as building the backups. So sometimes we might hold off playing them to field if there's nothing to kill and we think that there might be on the next turn. And once we've got to the five backups, then we can use the Montleonis LB. So ideally, we're not looking to use the other LB cards if we can avoid it, because then we've got the option to do two Montleonises in the game. It's a similar mindset with the forwards. So until we get to the five backups, our preference would be not to play any of them to the field at all, with the exception of Zidane. And we'll usually only look to play them if they're going to outright remove something, such as Cloud or Ject. And we can't do that just from the backups that we've got. Or we need to have them on the field because it's going to supplement some other form of removal. So Lefty is the best example of that. She boosts the damage that the other cards will do. So what about the Zidane? Well, he can't actually be cast from backup, so the only way to cast him is by discarding another win card, which would be the Zidane himself or the Cater, which always feels wasteful because you're having to pay an extra CP to do that. So alternatively, you can deploy him to field via the Edgar backup, via the Phoenix summons, or potentially directly from the Montleonis itself. So in the turns where there isn't anything to kill from your other forms of removal, or perhaps there is, but you want to leave those things alive for a particular reason, then instead we might look to get the Zidane into field. We've got a lot of summons and they fall into three categories. So firstly, we've got the six phoenixes themselves, which recur one of the two cost forwards. So you might be tempted to think that it's all about the Zidane and we want to spam him as much as possible. To some extent, that's true. However, Leftier is also a very solid target, because, particularly if we're looking to board wipe. So if we've got the Salamander summon, Lefty can boost that by 2k, or there might be a couple of other bits of removal that Lefty has needed to make those things actually take out what's on field. Or potentially you could, one of the other two targets if those two things are already on the field. So the second category of summons we've got is the spot removal. So the Brynhilders, the 3 CP Ifrit, and the Ifrita. So if you draw those, you can use them to pick off individual things, or they're very good targets to grab from the Citra as well. And thirdly, we've got the summons that can remove more than one thing, and they get better in the late game once we've set up properly. So that's the 1 CP Ifrit and the Salamander, who normally you're looking to have the 10 cards in the break zone that you can remove, and then it will do 7k rather than 5. Okay, so that's enough of a deck summary. Let's go to the game itself. My opponent won the dice roll and chose to go first, and they're playing the Wind Lightning Cadets list that made the top cut at Worlds. So I've got a decent opening hand. I've got two humans, so I can do one on the first turn, and then, if nothing else, the second one on the next turn. So let's see what my opponent does. Okay, you just do a backup and pass. So I draw two cards, but one of them is the Vermilion Bird K-Tuna. So now I'm thinking, right, instead, I'm going to go search for the four-cost Phoenix, pitch the Zidane in the process to resurrect the Zidane and start disrupting their opening few plays so they won't be able to set up. That's the plan. And I've still got the two humans. So next turn, I've got one human, and then a future turn, I can do the other one. So I rip out a backup from the entering the field. They're debating whether to play the 7 backup that would stop an auto. They don't, and then I rip a second back up, and then they take a damage, and then I pass. So now I'm thinking they're probably going to do the Cloud LB to kill this Zidane. I'm okay with that because it'll cost them two cards from hand, and I've got rid of those two backups. So it's unlikely they're going to have a decent setup, and I should be able to. I've still got the two humans myself, so all's looking well so far. So as expected, they do the Cloud, Zidane dies, no big deal. So I want to keep this Cloud alive because the real danger is the multi-element Cloud, the one that gets cheaper as you cast things because it can take out two forwards on entry. So for the time being, I'm just going to look to set up backups. So I'm going to play the human. It's what to discard. So Salamander seems the obvious choice because it's early days yet. We've not yet got to the 10 cards. So take a damage. So I've drawn the Miyu back up, so that'll let me search for a second backup. So next turn I could do Miyu, search for something. I could do human and draw a card. I've got the Citra as well, so potentially that could go search me for something if I needed to kill something dangerous. So here, my opponent realized that they actually misplayed. So they played the sync backup, thinking they could resurrect another backup. They can't. It can only resurrect forward. So we just rewind while they decide what to do. So instead, they just pick a card and play the backup. So my turn. I've drawn the Edgar and an ace. So now I'm in a bit of a quandary because I've got multiple options here. So it's do I just play the Miyu and search for something and do another 2 CP? Or do I do Edgar to deploy the Zidane and then also a 3 CP play? So this is why I'm a bit umming and ahhing. Or do I do the human first, draw a card, see what I get, and then go for the Edgar Zidane? I kind of wanted to keep all the cards, so that's why I was a bit hesitant. So in the end, I went for just the Edgar and the Zidane, and I still kept the options for the human and the ace, who could kill something if needed, and obviously the Citra. So again, we're just ripping out the most dangerous things from their hand. So I decide it's the chaos of the Walker Wheel because they could cast that on this cloud that's on field, remove him, and then go search for the better cloud. So I don't want that to happen. So again, I'm passing. I've still got the human. So when that enters, now that'll be the fourth backup. So it will also 7k something. But as I keep saying, I don't want to kill this cloud. So if they do play something else, hopefully that can go towards killing that. Take another damage. Next cater. And then they've elected for the LB Gilgamesh because they're starting to get worried about the threat of the Montleonis, so they've removed the targets from the break zone. Okay, so now this human can easily take out that Gilgamesh, which is handy, and draw me a card in the process. But firstly, let's rip some more things. So one of the two Lulus, then human, kill the Gilgamesh, draw a card. Do we want to do anything else? So we could play the ace just to get to 5 backups, or do we just pass? So in the end, decide it's better to get to 5 backups. Next turn, they know that if I wanted to, I could potentially Montleonis. Although at the minute, there aren't any targets in the break zone. They don't know I've got Terror in hand, so I just need to draw a second target, or they could kill the Zidane, and then Montleonis is good to go. So the only thing to be wary of with cadets is the break zone interaction is the queen forward. So she's got an action ability where she can pay wind and one to remove 2 cards. Is it 2 cards from the opponent's break zone? So she isn't on field, so there's no threat of anything disrupting my Mont play. So I've drawn a left ear, so now I've got the terror and the left ear. So I know that there's nothing that can stop me doing this. So I'm going to pay 4 and pitch them. That'll be the 8. They'll both come in off the Montrealis and have haste. And because they put me to 3 damage, I get the added bonus of the lefty is actually going to do 6k, boosted to 8 to actually take out this cloud. But as mentioned earlier, they now do the Chaos of the Walker Wheel play. So they're attempting to remove this cloud to then go search for a new cloud. So I allow it to happen. So we know that that cloud is likely to come in next turn and kill 2 things. But now they forget that obviously the Zidane can rip the cloud from their hand. So that was probably a misplay there. So swing with Zidane. Lefty and the Terror have haste. Now up to 6 damage. So they're in a pretty precarious spot at the minute. Forgetting that obviously Mont, you need to sacrifice a backup once you've resurrected your 2 things. So you can see from my hand, I've still got the Citra to take out anything if needed. I've got both a 3 cost and a 4 cost Phoenix. So if Zidane dies, I can, which he just has, I can resurrect him to try and get that final point of damage because he can only be blocked by 2 or less. So it should be just a case of resurrecting the Zidane, if nothing else. Of course, they played the ace, so that's going to be a problem because he will be able to discard a card to dull the Zidane. So that could prevent me from actually getting those final points in. So we need to take out the ace and play the Zidane. So the Citra can do the taking out of ace. Just need to be mindful of that each card they discard, it boosts ace by 1,000. So just need to work out a way to deal enough damage to get over any potential discards and then still have the CP to play the Phoenix to resurrect the Zidane. So they've managed to kill the Zidane and the Montleones. So it's handy that a lefty is still on field because any damage effects will be boosted by 2k. So the 4 cost Phoenix, for example, that's going to do 4k rather than just the 2k. I've also got the Salamander, so that's can do a spread of 5 plus 2 from the left ear. And if I do manage to get to the 10 cards, it could be 7k. Oh, I'm forgetting the K tuner as well, boost the summon by a k. So that would be 6k from the Salamander outright, plus 2 from the left ear. So yeah, basically I've got enough things, it's just working out. Is there any way that this could go wrong? So in the end, I think I go for the Citra. Citra requires me to remove 5 cards from the break zone to get her effect where I go search for a summon. So that means I won't be able to do a full powered Salamander as well, but it should be enough because each time you cast a summon, Citra will reduce something by 2k as well. So cast the Citra, remove the 5, decide what to go search for. So at first I think about the 1 CP Ifrit, so that could do 2 pings of 5 boosted against the ace, and that was probably the better option. Well, what was it though? Let's think. No, because I don't think then I'd have had enough CP to also cast the Phoenix. So I opt for the Salamander summon because that can take out the other forwards as well. So in response, they're going to pitch their cards to boost the ace to make him live. So he's still going to be alive. So then I need to find a way of killing him before I cast the Phoenix. So you can see I've still got 5 cards in hand. So basically, I decided to just cast the LB Zac to finish him off. Then the coast is clear, and I've still got 2 discards for the 4 CP Phoenix. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Here's the deck list one more time. Hope you enjoy and see you again soon.